Hey guys, my name is Grace Rowe. I'm 20 years old and I'm really excited to be partnering with the New South Wales Mental Health Commission today in interviewing some brilliant young people. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the country that I'm dialing in from, the Gadigal land, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and also extend this welcoming to any Aboriginal people joining us today. I would also like to acknowledge the lived experience of people with mental health issues and those who offer them support and hope, including our panellists today and anyone joining us online. I would like to thank the New South Wales Mental Health Commission for hosting today's event and for bringing us together to talk about how young people are staying well through these challenging times and thriving in some circumstances in 2020. This year has been a challenging one for all of us. It began with fires, floods, and then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. This has caused a lot of uncertainty and many negative media stories. However, in today's video, we want to focus on the positives. We are tuning in to people's lived experiences of mental health issues and also how they are supporting other people experiencing similar situations. People who have lived experiences of mental health issues have an ability to encourage and speak to others going through the same things. They can relate to many and be a voice of hope for us all. In today's video, we will discuss how our panelists are staying positive and well in these challenging times, how some of them are using this downtime to create new opportunities, and how our peer support workers are using their lived experience to support others. I'm so excited now to introduce you to our speakers and give them a moment to tell you all about the wonderful things they are doing in their own spaces of work and study, and also what they are personally passionate about when it comes to discussing mental health. Stella, would you like to start off for us?
Sure. Thanks so much, Grace. Hi, everyone. My name is Stella and I'm 22 years old. I've been involved in the mental health space for the last sort of 3 to 5 years in a variety of capacities. So I work at Headspace and Batyr in both community engagement and facilitation capacities. I go out to schools and educate people about mental health and why it's important that we look out for our mates. One of the really exciting things, which I'll talk a little bit about later on, is I also recently launched my own mental health training business, which allows me to do what I love and take my passion and actually take it out to the community a lot more widespread than what I'm doing currently. I'm also studying a diploma in counselling and a Bachelor of Behavioural Studies. And I'm really excited to be on this panel today to, like you said, Grace, share those really positive stories and the ways that young people are coping and are thriving during 2020.
That's brilliant, Stella. Thank you. And Jahin, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Grace. Hey everyone, my name is Jahin. I am a second year optometry student and I'm 20 years old. I'm currently based in Canberra and I've been in the youth advocacy, mental health and multicultural field since I graduated high school in 2018. The reason I'm very passionate about the mental health field is, I come from a South Asian background. So my background in community is migrant oriented. And what mental health is in that sphere is still a massive taboo. And it's a stigma that surrounds, young people getting access to their mental health, seeing a psychologist. So for me, I really want to take some responsibility and ensure that, my peers and just the people around me are able to access just the bare minimum and, receive the treatment and help that they deserve. Because, mental health is such an important issue, especially during this year. So that's been my main ambitions and something I hope to pursue as I get older and really, work with more younger people like this panel.
Thank you, Jahin. And Max, do you want to share some things with us?
Yeah, hi, I'm Max. I'm 24. I've been working in the mental health space since early 2017, so about 7, almost 8 years now. My background has been pretty much dropped out of high school and found a pilot project as a peer worker at Headspace. So that's kind of how I started doing that. I've got a lot of passion for advocacy, especially for youth, but in particular LGBTI people, especially trans and gender diverse. I myself transitioned when I was 17, so close to when I started peer work. There was a lot happening at that age. And my role now, I'm the Consumer Partnerships Coordinator for South Eastern Sydney Local Health District Mental Health Service. So my role provides leadership and oversees the lived experience workforce, which is our peer workers, our consumer reps, our carer reps, and yeah, any other lived experience positions.
Awesome. And Maddie?
Hi, my name's Maddie. I'm 23 years old and I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Psychology. I'm doing my honours year at the moment, and I've just submitted a thesis looking at life interference from anxiety and depression. And I'm really passionate about how we can incorporate lived experience into policy, into research, into everything that we do, because as someone with a lived experience, I believe that we have so much knowledge and our experiences carry so much power. So I'm really passionate about finding ways that we can incorporate that. And I'm really excited to be on this panel today. So thank you.
So good. And Jess, what would you like to share?
Hi everyone, my name is Jess. I live in Sydney, I'm 24. I've done a lot of work for mental health organisations such as ReachOut and Beyond Blue, and I have a psychology degree. And I also happen to be a young carer, so I wanted to join this chat today to share some strategies that have helped improve my well-being over the years. And I'm passionate for advocating for other young carers and finding things that will help with them as well.
Thanks so much for sharing, Jess. And Quinn?
Yeah, I'm Quinn. I'm originally from Western Australia. I moved here to Sydney just over a year ago, nearly 2 years ago now. I'm a non-binary Indigenous person. I have lived experience with mental illness throughout my family and for myself personally. I was diagnosed with a complex mental illness just over a year ago. I went through a couple of months of denial and then I accepted it and got some help. But I'm really keen to be part of this conversation and just share what's helped me lately through this time.
Thanks, Quinn. And now Serena?
Hi everyone, I'm Serena and I'm 21 years old. I'm from Lismore in northern New South Wales, so I'm hoping to offer a bit of a regional perspective today. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Counselling in my final trimester, which is really exciting. And I'm also president of the youth advisory group at my local headspace. And so through that, I've been able to get into schools and, just spread awareness about mental health and how it can be improved in young people, because I'm really, passionate about empowering young people, because everyone deserves mental health and positive mental health and well-being.
Thanks so much, Serena. Now that we all know each other a little better, I'd love to ask everyone, what have you been doing to stay well during these challenging times? Maddie, do you want to start?
Yeah, so for me, it's a lot about connecting. And so connecting in with myself and what I need, and allowing myself to take breaks. So doing an honours year in the middle of a global pandemic has been quite tough at times, but allowing myself rest and breaks. I've really been getting into the Gilmore Girls. I've just finished all seasons. And that was just really beneficial to have a bit of time off. Connecting with friends and family and being open and honest and vulnerable with how I was going. It really allowed for a lot of beautiful connections and conversations to follow, which really supported my mental health and kept me well during, some pretty turbulent times. And another really important thing for me is connecting in with culture and connecting with country. So as an Indigenous woman, I love being able to connect in with my culture. I love being able to go to the beach and sit there and know that my ancestors have been through these challenging times and I have their strength within me. So thank you.
That's beautiful. And Quinn?
So what I've been doing to stay well during these challenging times is I've been teaching myself another language. That's something that I haven't been able to do a lot because I've been isolated a lot, and I've got health problems that make me probably more at risk of getting really sick from COVID. So I've been trying to be also patient with myself. If I'm having a bad day and I'm just having a bad day, I'm not going to get out of bed. I try not to get angry or like frustrated at myself. I just let myself have that day, and I binge something on Netflix or study Japanese.
I think that's so cool, Quinn. And I love what you're saying about you have those moments where you're trying something new and finding those opportunities, but you're also giving yourself that grace to just have those days that we all are having. So thank you so much for sharing. Jahin, would you like to give your answer?
Absolutely. So I think one of the main strategies that I've used has to be staying organized with all my things. And the main coping mechanism that I've used is to write things down. So instead of feeling overwhelmed or unproductive after a long day, I tend to write down my thoughts, things I want to get done, things I feel like, I want to achieve during this period. And that's helped me, not look back at a long day and just feel like, oh, I haven't done enough, or I feel unproductive, or just feel overwhelmed. So that's been one of my coping mechanisms, as well as just being more kinder to myself, understanding that we're in a situation that was unforeseen at the beginning of the year. So just, understanding that and acknowledging that is a good way to just say, hey, you deserve a break, you deserve to take some time off, and really, understand that, this isn't something we ever expected. So, being more, confident in yourself, and so what you've done is enough for this period, and then obviously looking at a more optimistic and hopeful future. I think that's been the mentality that I've tried to create through organization, through thinking properly and reflecting. But yeah, that's been my main strategy to cope.
Thanks so much, Jahin. That sounds awesome. And Stella, what have you been doing to stay well during these challenging times?
Yeah, I actually just want to reflect what Jean was saying around being kind to ourselves, because that was something that this year I actually had quite a few big plans of what I wanted to do. So I had some goals that I wanted to hit this year that I didn't think I would actually be able to hit because of everything that was going on. And it was a really challenging time for me to actually, process and try and get myself out of that thinking that, it's not the end of the world. And I think through thinking that everyone's in the same boat, and it's not that I'm not hitting my goals because of a personal failure or because I'm not trying hard enough. It's literally because, we've experienced a global pandemic and we're all in the same boat. And I think that definitely that mentality really helped me throughout this year whenever things were popping up that were acting as sort of barriers to achieving my goals. And another massive thing for me was connection this year. So I'm a massive extrovert. I love being around people. I don't often like being alone. So definitely, I was lucky that I was still traveling into work, so at least I was still seeing people in that sense. But I made an effort to ensure that I was still staying connected with my friends, still trying to see them whenever I can, making sure I see my partner. Because, I'm the type that as soon as something goes wrong, I kind of don't internalize it and try and solve it myself. I go out to people and try and connect. And I think that was a massive, massive thing for me this year. And I'm super grateful we weren't in as strict lockdowns as Victoria is at the moment, or as they were, because that would have made connection a lot more difficult. But that's kind of what I've been doing this year to get me through those speed bumps and those hurdles.
Yeah, so good. I like what you're saying about connection. It is so important. And I think it's awesome for us to all try and work out what we individually need to feel connected, because it will be different for different people. And then also on the flip side, work out how we can be there for our friends and what they need to feel that connection. So thank you so much, Stella. Jess, would you like to share with us?
Okay, so I find that as a carer, it can be hard to find time for myself. So sometimes I have to ask family members to kind of look after the people I'm caring for, and do something for myself outside of the house, such as going on walks or volunteering or doing something that I like, or catching up with friends. I've also been trying to do things like watching a movie at the end of the day, or playing a video game at the end of the day, just something short that I can do for myself. I've been trying to do some of that every day. Another thing that I've done for myself this year is I've done a self-care notebook. So it kind of has things that I've learned, my strengths, things that I'm grateful for, things that I've done well recently, and activities that I like doing that have helped me feel better in the past.
Wonderful, Jess. Thank you so much for letting us know what you've been doing. And Serena?
I think for me, like I've recently gotten into, cooking, trying out new recipes, and also reading, which they're things I really enjoy but haven't done for a while. So it's been great to get in touch with that side of myself and, do things for me. And through cooking, I can do things for other people as well. And I found this year being present within myself has been really important to my wellness. Like, checking in, see how I'm going, and doing what I need to do, you know, for my wellness. And because being, self-care isn't selfish, and that's something that I've definitely learnt this year. And like a lot of other people have said, connection as well. And, reaching out when you need, and reaching out and checking in on your friends and family as well, because their mental health is equally as important.
Thanks so much, Serena. And finally, Max, how have you kept well and stayed positive during these times?
I think for me, it ended up being positive, but I think because I tend to be a bit reclusive, and I tend to hide away and go off the grid for moments at a time, and can be a bit hard to contact. So I found that when there was the social distancing and not being allowed out and stuff, I thought, I really enjoyed it at the beginning because I could tap out of a lot of different requirements, but then I quite quickly found a lot of gaps on where my self-care was lacking. Like I realized a lot of my self-care actually was the connection to other people, but I didn't really know that at the time. Like I've kind of had a lot of experiences with social anxiety and can find social interactions quite exhausting. But then I ended up doing a lot of self-reflection actually in COVID, which I didn't necessarily expect. Like I was sort of reflecting on my self-care strategies, how I was going to do that. I weirdly started, it sounds weirdly because it's, if like a lot of people that know me know that I would not do it, but I started exercising, which I pretty much have not done for years and years, which was actually really interesting. I got a lot of benefit from that, and I know there's a lot of stuff on physical health at the moment, but I think, yeah, the self-reflection was around self-care, and I was kind of like hit quite hard with being present with myself and being isolated and sort of not having my different kind of avoidance strategies and ways that I tend to run away from my problems a little bit were very much taken away from me. So yeah, I ended up getting quite unwell and having an inpatient stay in a mental health unit. And I think the one thing that was quite positive is the way that I've come out of that. I definitely am more well than I've been in years. And I actually got access to really good help. I put in a lot of energy with my support services. And I think that's a positive for me through COVID, which sounds potentially like a negative, but for me, it was a massive positive, the kind of wellness that I've gotten now and the self-reflection I've been able to do.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Max. I think that a lot of people appreciate hearing your truths. So you guys, people are using this time to pursue new goals or dreams or little projects. And I'm wondering if anyone would like to share their own stories or stories of people they know who are thriving in this time. Serena, do you want to start?
Sure thing. So I think for me, I'm seeing people thrive in their own ways because everyone thrives differently. Like, for example, my brother's finishing up his HSC. I've got a friend finishing up their uni degree, and I'm so excited for them. And, seeing that growth and the effort they put in from that is, they're like flowers, and they're, going into their next stage of life. And, for me, myself, I'm finishing up my degree at the end of the year, and that's really exciting. And I feel like I'm thriving, like I'm getting out there into schools, I'm volunteering in places I'm passionate about. And yeah, I just feel like I'm thriving, and I'm very thankful for that.
Wonderful. And Jaheen?
Yep. So on a more personal note, a big passion of mine and a big goal of mine has been always has been writing. So just writing different things, articles, poetry, things like this. But what I realized is going into university, when you have work and uni life and a social life and advocacy, it can get very overwhelming. So you don't really have time to sit down and actually take the time to write things. So what I realized during this lockdown period is you have a lot more time, and you have a lot more time to stay organized, which has allowed me to focus a lot on my writing, send it to publications, actually get things published, which is something I never thought I would ever see my name on. So in that sense, I try to look at these situations sort of like a blessing in disguise, where you're allowed to focus and really branch out into things that you probably in normal times wouldn't do, because you'd see the whole busyness of life and just the hectic nature of your schedule as a massive obstacle from even sitting down and actually taking the time off to really focus on the things you're, more than a hobby, more so of a passion. So that's been a bit of a goal of mine that I've been able to define and really set out. And obviously I've seen other young people take the time off to focus on exercising, their own writing, focusing on their hobbies. So I think it's been, a good time to really find yourself in a sense, because you're able to reflect on, what you've been doing, what you want to do, and how you want to move forward throughout the years. So I think it's been a good time for some things to, reevaluate yourself and understand what you want and what you need.
That is so cool, Jaheen. I can't believe that you did that and that you're published. I love writing too, but I did start writing a novel. It's not published. I'm only 2 chapters in. It might not go anywhere, but I love that we can have those moments to try new things. And Jess, what would you like to share with us?
So as a carer, I was already used to staying at home because my loved ones can't really leave the house on their own. So in that regard, it was kind of easy for me to stay at home, but at the same time it was also challenging because with all the social distancing, because I also liked leaving the house as a kind of it was kind of like my respite from caring. So but in some ways, like reflecting on the positives has been helpful for me, because I've been able to do things that I wouldn't normally do due to the social distancing. For example, I was able to rediscover old hobbies such as scrapbooking, and I was able to study new courses that I wouldn't have thought of before. I've also found new things to do, such as going on virtual tours of museums and other things online. I've also seen a lot of people get into volunteering, and I've done a lot of volunteer work myself. And I've really enjoyed reading good news stories and stories about people doing good things for other people, acts of kindness and things like that, rather than reading the negative news stories as well. So as a carer, I kind of believe in some ways that I benefited from everything going online, because for me it can be hard to leave the people I care for at home by themselves as well. So in that ways, it made me feel useful that there was some work that I could do online.
Jess, you just sound so incredible. I love hearing about everything you've gotten up to. Wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And Max, what would you like to share with us?
I think at the moment with mental health services and stuff, we've got our peer workers that are really thriving in our district. Like a lot of with COVID, we've had to think of contemporary ways to get support to people, to make sure people are getting the right supports when they need them. We've got our consumer reps and our lived experience workforce that are more passionate than ever that with some of the leave restrictions and how we've had to be protected through COVID have been obviously difficult for people who have been in hospitals and stuff, but there's a lot of momentum at the moment. I think a lot of people are getting re-energized and have been able to have some rest. But yeah, I think at the moment a lot of our lived experience workforce is thriving in the face of adversity, which is great.
Brilliant. And Quinn, what have you or your friends done to thrive during this time?
Kind of like how Max said before, I thought I would really enjoy being in lockdown. Like, I was like, this is cool. I'm introverted. I play video games. I watch anime. Like, I'm a nerdy geek. I'm going to love it. Maybe a month and a half in, I was like, I need to do something. I need to be doing more. So personally, I was already part of my Headspace Youth Advisory Committee, but I was like, give me more stuff to do. Like, anytime you guys have an interview, put me on the panel. Like, just give me anything you can so I can contribute and, stay engaged as much as I can. Another thing that I did was focus on my Twitch channel. I'm not self-promoting, but this is something I did to also spread awareness about the mental illness that I had whilst playing video games. That was something that really helped me. And I think a lot of other people benefited from watching that and, seeing that it's okay to not really be doing a lot right now, to just do what you can, find bits of work or, opportunities where you can and just make the most of it. Another thing was yeah, like I said, the Japanese lessons that I've been doing for myself as well. I've like, I'm going to learn Japanese this year. That's what I'm going to try and do. It's probably a bit far-fetched, but I'll try.
That's so cool. Later on, will we maybe hear some Japanese, or is that like still in the works?
I could try later on. I don't know what you'd have to, yeah.
Brilliant. And Stella, what would you like to answer with?
Yeah, I think Jahin and I are on the same wavelength today, because everything that you were saying before around this year being a really massive year for self-reflection. And I think a lot of what I was doing this year as well was actually reflecting on, okay, by the end of this year, what do I want to achieve? What do I want to achieve by next year? So I had it in my mind that I was going to finish my counseling diploma this year, which I'm a month out from doing. I re-enrolled back into uni because I did take some time off uni. And I think the massive thing that came out for me was that I finally launched my own business, which I've been wanting to do for like 5 years. And there's no better time to do that than during a pandemic. So I thought, why not? Definitely there are a lot of challenges. Like I was mentioning earlier, there are a lot of setbacks and sort of things that I had to wait for that really hindered me actually being able to launch. But I was really, really very grateful. And honestly, like, I don't say it very often that I'm proud of myself, but I was very proud of myself this year that I finally launched a mental health training organization called Medaki Mental Health Training. And through that, I get to do what I love and what I've been passionate about for years. And mental health at the moment, from what I've noticed from a lot of the schools, the youth organizations, and even people in corporate positions that I've been talking to, it's, even though mental health has been around for such a long time, and people in our position have been advocating that people actually recognize it, I think because now we've experienced COVID, and people that maybe they wouldn't have had a second thought about mental health are actually being affected by job loss and working from home and all these things that are surfacing for them, that people are actually really starting to tune in and want to know more about mental health. So I didn't think I would have any bookings even in my first few months, but I've been really overwhelmed and really grateful that people are looking for things like mental health first aid training and study without stress training for high school students and things like that. So I think for me, like I was saying, it's not very often that I sit back and, say, yeah, go you, I'm proud of you kind of a thing. But I think that was something for me that was really massive. And I feel like that's how I thrived this year.
Stella, I think starting your own business is absolutely something to be proud of, and congratulations to you, because it's a big deal and it seems like it's going wonderfully.
Thanks so much.
And Maddie, would you like to tell us how you or your friends have been thriving?
Yeah, so when I was reflecting on this question, I was thinking of so many different examples that there are, because I think so many of my friends and family are thriving. We all are. We've had to adapt to these really difficult circumstances. And the world as we know it has changed. Particularly, I look with a lot of my friends in honours, we were really excited to have kind of face-to-face classes to get to make friends in a smaller cohort. And we really lost that opportunity because everything moved online within 2 weeks. But reflecting back now, we've submitted our theses, we're about to sit our final exams, but we've still managed to bond as a year group. We've made friends online, we've created group chats, and it's really shown me the power of how we can just adapt and how resilient we are in managing these things and making connections to like shared circumstances online. And it didn't matter. I was still able to make those really great friendships. And also looking too at what people are using to do with their spare time, how we're able to spend more time with our families, muck around, maybe make a family TikTok. I know that's what my family's really been getting into. One of my amazing friends, who's an advocate for sustainability, has been wanting to write a book, and now instead of commuting, she's actually managed to write a fair chunk of her book on sustainability. So keeping on that publishing line, so a very accomplished group among us today. But yes, I think we are all really thriving in our own ways, whether it be like Stella creating your own business, or Jahin making time to write and publish, or Max's example within the peer workforce. I think there's so many great examples of how we're thriving. And I really would urge the audience too, who listens along, to reflect on your life and your friends and families and find the ways that you and they have been thriving, because we all have, and I think we all deserve a round of applause for how we have coped and how we have thrived in really difficult circumstances.
Absolutely. That's such a great word of encouragement to everyone. It is true. Everyone's been doing a good job. We've never done this before. This is a pretty one-line trial run. No one really knows what they're doing, but we're doing our best. You guys, for the next question, I'd love to ask for you to share some tips, tricks, or advice you'd have for people who are wanting to stay positive and motivated during this time, especially and particularly given the COVID-19 context. So, Quinn, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So something that's a tip that I have, if you're someone that even has a little bit of, or even if you're someone that doesn't have an interest in journaling or bullet points, to-do lists, things, I think Jahin mentioned it before, it can really help with feeling productive and motivated, especially if you're someone like me. I need to write on my to-do list, get out of bed, have a shower, get food. And sometimes that might even be all that's on my list, like do the dishes, and that might be it. And I think it's important to not compare yourself to what others are doing as well. That's something I struggle with a lot, is, I'm hearing about people that are finishing uni, not that that's nothing to celebrate, but, in myself, I'm like, wow, all these people are doing amazing things and I'm here at home just getting through the day. But it's important to give yourself credit for that. That's hard to do for some people. And even if all you do in a day is make it through the day, that's something you should be proud of and give yourself way more credit than you probably are giving yourself. Yeah, I think if you can do your best not to compare yourself to others, try bullet journaling. I don't know how to explain what bullet journaling is, but look it up. It's actually pretty fun. I didn't think I'd like it, but it's kind of just something mindless you can do as well, which is good in a time like this, just to feel like you're doing something. And talk to people about how you're feeling if you're comfortable with it. Like whoever you're comfortable with, just talk about it, because chances are they're probably feeling a bit similar, or you're probably not as alone as you might feel in it.
Absolutely, Quinn. Thank you so much for sharing. Stella, what about you?
I've written down bullet journaling now on my to-do list to try for today, for the rest of the week. I think for me, I would just really urge anyone that's watching this who's struggling to find motivation, is just to try and tune into yourself and try and find out what's going to work for you. Because I think it's really helpful to hear other people's experiences of what they do to stay motivated. But it's about finding out what works for you as well. Like for me, I would recommend you to stay connected, to keep talking to people, to not bottle things up. If you have an idea or something you want to do or something you want to achieve, talk to somebody about it who's also, quite motivated as well. So keeping check of who's in your circle, who you're connected with as well, I think is a massive thing. And probably one tip that I would recommend for every single person: try and stay off social media as much as you can. Because in all honesty, at various points this year, social media low-key ruined me throughout the year. And I think that was, one of the reasons why an event like this was created, is because we hear so much negativity, we see so much. And like Quinn was saying, for me, social media is one of those things where I compare myself like relentlessly to everyone. And I think staying off social media as much as possible. Obviously, it's difficult because I have to be on there to promote my business, but at the same time, I was trying to stay off and not exposing myself to messages that weren't going to be helpful or beneficial for my mental health and well-being. So that's what I would recommend. But above all, it's about working out what's going to work best for you.
That's some great advice. Thank you, Stella. And Jahin?
Yep, so I definitely echo what Quinn was saying about writing things down. I think being able to celebrate small tasks and just small achievements during the day is such an effective way of reflecting back and saying, hey, at least I did these things, rather than having nothing written down and just feeling overwhelmed. But also adding to that, I think just understanding that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. I think when we started this year, all of us had so many, great and grand plans that we had, goals that we wanted to achieve, whether that be traveling or, personal achievements, professional achievements, which have, sort of stagnated due to COVID-19. But I think understanding that, putting small efforts in throughout the year will accumulate in the future, because, we won't always be in such a, difficult situation like this year for the rest of our lives. So just, understanding that and reflecting on that and being, optimistic in a sense, because, if we put the small efforts in and, work towards the goal that we want at the end of the day, it will come eventually. Situations will come, opportunities will knock on the door. So I think having that mentality is obviously easier said than done, but I think if we can work on it every single day and just understand that, there will be a time when we are able to achieve this goal, these goals that we set out for ourselves, I think would be a good outlook to take, especially as young people. Like Stella mentioned, if we look at social media, we see so many people doing so many things every single day, but we forget to realize that our time will come. Our time for goals or setting those goals and achieving the goals will come. So I think that's been a big shift in mentality for me, and I think I would definitely recommend other young people to try.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to keep the right perspective, hey, and look ahead to the future, and get excited about everything that is going to come our way. Serena, what would you like to share with us?
I know it's hard to stay motivated. I'm currently experiencing, struggling with uni, like that last push. So I think recognizing that you can't be motivated all the time is pretty important. Like the others have said, for me, I have a big list of things I want to do, and then, breaking that down into little daily achievable tasks, whether that's starting research for an assignment or, like Quinn said, getting out of your bed and making your bed. And having something to look forward to has been really important for me. Like, I don't have concerts now that, with COVID, which really sucks. But, just something simple, like just something simple like catching up with friends or, cooking a nice dinner. Just little things to look forward to really help with my motivation, I think. So, yeah, just recognize that you can't be motivated all the time and do what you need to do and what works for you to stay motivated.
Thanks, Serena. And Jess, what would you like to say?
So I really agree with everything that everyone else has said here. I also have a to-do list of tasks that I do every day, and it gives me a sense of achievement just to be able to tick them off. I also try to look forward to little things, like doesn't have to be necessarily something big, like I look forward to a new movie coming out or maybe a new game coming out or something like that as well. I've heard some advice at the start of the pandemic. I actually read this online. It said to do things every day that give you a sense of achievement, that you feel connected with other people, and some things that I do just for fun, and try to have a balance around those kinds of activities. And I've tried to incorporate this in my life and as a carer and in my volunteer work as much as I can. For example, I volunteer in a nursing home, and I work with the lifestyle team. So we always try and do activities that have a bit of variety and can help people stay motivated and give people something to look forward to as well. And I also think that positive thinking is also a good idea in these types of times as well. So it can help to have a list of activities that that you can do when you're bored as well, just to give your day some variety and help you stay motivated. And I also feel that just because you have a negative thought, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And I've been trying to tell myself that, and I've also been trying to tell myself that just because you think something is happening now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's permanent as well. So I've tried to think about how I've overcome other challenging times in my life as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant to reflect on what you've already overcome and achieved, to give you that sense of hope that you're going to get through this and it's going to be okay. It's brilliant, Jess. Thank you. And Maddie, would you like to tell us how you would stay motivated, or any advice you have for people watching?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's really important to reflect and remember that these times are temporary and our feelings are temporary. And while sometimes it doesn't feel that way, they are, and we will get through this. And to also remember the why of why I'm doing a task, whether it be doing my assignment because I want to be a psychologist and I know that that's going to help me get there. Or even if it's, getting out of bed because I know I'll feel better once I get out of bed and go out to the sunshine. So when you reflect on that why you're doing something, and it can be something really little or something really big in the future, it can be really beneficial. And sometimes, when your motivation is really lacking, you can sometimes forget the feeling of like why you're doing something. Is once you get up and do it, maybe jot down in, our bullet journals now. I think everyone's going to go and get one of those. Is to rate how you feel after you've done the thing. Because that can set a really powerful reminder of like how well and how good you do feel or motivated you feel after you have done something.
Some really good tips in there. Thank you so much, Maddie. And Max, would you like to finish off this question for us?
I think 2 tips. I think the first one was through COVID, and I think me feeling more and more unwell, I really needed friends that respected my boundaries. And I think at different times I needed to kind of be able to come in and out or kind of go off the grid for a couple of days or, kind of cancel a lot of plans at the last minute. And I really needed, I really took inventory of which of my friends were always patient and always understood that. And I think looking for people who had those boundaries. I think another tip for me would be before I kind of unloaded on people how I was feeling in an event or a rant, asking them if they had space to hold that for me. I think checking in, I think if everyone's a bit upset and there's tends to be one person who's quite caring or empathetic, it can end up with them, constantly having conversations around that. So I think one of the things that I now do, and a lot of my friends do, is if we're going to talk about something heavy, we either do like a content warning or trigger warning, or we ask if that person's got capacity for space to hold that conversation and to be present for it. So I think that would be my tips for, I think, conversations and boundaries.
Yeah, that's really good, Max. Thank you. Also, Max, you're a peer support worker. Could you explain to us what your job looks like and what this means you do on a day-to-day basis?
So mental health peer work, so just to clarify, there's a difference between peer support work and peer support. So peer support is obviously when you've got 2 peers that are doing similar things or have similar experiences and connect on that way. Peer support work is actually like a professional discipline where basically your role is you have to have an identified lived experience of mental health concerns or distress or extreme states or however you refer to your experience. And basically your role is to work with people and support them from a place of mutuality. So from kind of, I've been in a similar position. I can understand where you're going, how you're feeling, and understanding like different things about the service and what it's like to be an inpatient or what it's like to, do psychology. And I think, so basically peer work is matching up and working with people from not from a point of I know what's going on with you, but more from a point of listening and the back and forth of sharing stories. And say, for example, if I was working with someone who was struggling with social anxiety, and I could talk about some of the strategies that I use, but also my experience how that's changed over time. Not that you need to be in a certain point of your recovery to do peer work, but so a lot of my background has been in youth peer work as well, so doing mental health and stuff with other young people. And I think for me, I always look to other young people to connect, and I always look for people who have a similar experience. Like I feel like it's one of the most natural things we do is we want to talk to someone who understands what we're about to talk about, and some of the things that we can deal with in life are very, very complex. So I think that's kind of the basis of peer work. It can look very different. So we've got peer workers that are in some community health teams. We've got some youth peer workers. We've got some so inpatient peers. We've got peer work in heaps of different ways. And there's also peer work that's outside of mental health. Like a lot of the time with, I think with cancer stuff and with paramedics, it's basically just connecting people with other people that have been through a tough situation that some people are about to enter.
It's really cool, Max. I think it's great for people watching this video, if they're going through difficulties relating to mental health, just to know that there are people who can help them and also relate to them. They're close to their age, they've lived through it themselves. And Max, how do people get involved in peer support work?
So there's lots of different avenues actually. So I know a lot of people that have come up through consumer advisory groups. So say for example through local headspaces, they might have some pilot projects or some headspace peer work roles. A lot of it is asking mental health services because a lot of them have peer work roles. The Mental Health Coordinating Council, I think because I'm based in Sydney, so in Sydney they do our peer work Cert 4. So that's also accessible. I think it's around a lot of, I recommend linking with the mental health service because they in some way usually should have a pathway to peer work and they should have peer workers involved. And I think, another part is if you've got a new peer work role, if you're looking into it, also start looking at different supports and mentors. It can be a pretty difficult position because it is quite the benefits for me and the challenges are the same. So it's quite meaningful, but that can also mean it's quite challenging emotionally. So I would recommend as well making sure from the very beginning, if you do get into a peer role, to very much look at your supervision and your mentoring and making sure you've got a lot of support around you.
Thanks so much for sharing, Max. And would anyone else like to share their own experiences of working with peer workers?
I've also been involved in peer work, so I found that peer support and peer work lets people know that they're not alone, that someone is listening to them and cares what they're going through. And it also helps inspire recovery and gets them to think of their strengths and their own way forward as well, and maybe think about some strategies and services that they haven't previously considered. And peer support and doing peer work has also benefited me as well because it's helped me learn about other people's experiences. It's helped me be more empathetic and become closer to other people. And it's given me some ideas of my own as well. And I've kept a record of the strategies I've learned through listening to other people as well. And I, along with the other people I've supported through peer work, have found that peer support has helped us stay motivated in between appointments as well. So we, especially during these challenging times where a lot of appointments and a lot of services have had to be cancelled or delayed as well. So I think that peer work is vital during a pandemic or a really challenging time with regards to the mental health system here.
Absolutely. Queen or Serena, did you want to share?
Yeah, so I've been actually looking into how to get into peer support work. So it's really nice for me to hear how to go about that because I had no idea. But in the past, I've done mentor work, which I think is pretty similar. I went to a special high school, which was for disengaged young people. When I finished, I went back there to work with those young people. And I think it's really important because sometimes when young people are getting help, it can be easy to think that whoever's helping you has no idea what it's like to be in the position that you're in. And it's very easy to think like, what are they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know my story and things like that. But when you've got someone roughly the same age and they've had similar experiences, it's much easier to relate and then further than that, get help and trust that the help is actually going to be positive for you in the end. So it's definitely an awesome thing and very admirable to do.
And I suppose I haven't had any experience with peer support, but in a counselling capacity and throughout, my degree, I think the most important thing I've learned, when interacting with others, and I suppose that supportive role is just listening and being there for the person and, being there for what they need and, coming out of that as well, making sure that you're in the right headspace to be looking after and supporting that person because you can't support others if you can't support yourself. Yeah.
So good, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much to all of our speakers for sharing their stories and experiences today. We really appreciate it. It's great to be reminded that even in the most difficult times, we're not alone. There are people who care for you and who want to support you. And there is a beautiful, bright future waiting ahead of all of us. I'd like to thank, on behalf of the Commission, the Advocate for Children and Young People for their generous support towards today's event. I also want to thank the following organisations for their contribution towards today's interview. Being supported, Batyr, Beyond Blue, Headspace, ReachOut, and WayAhead. If you feel you've been affected by the contents of this video in any way and would like to speak with someone who can help you through these uncertain times, at the end of this video, there will be a slide of different organisations you can contact for counselling and advice. And we'd love to remind you that there is a ton of resources and support available to you. But before we wrap up, we have a short message from Daniel Angus, the Deputy Commissioner of the New South Wales Mental Health Commission.
Hey, so I want to thank our brilliant speakers and Grace for doing such an exceptional job as facilitator. Here at the Commission, we truly value the experience and insights of young people. You are the experts on issues for young people, and we listen to you to help us in our role as advocates for better attitudes, better services, and better outcomes for young people who are living with or recovering from a mental health issue. We also listen to carers and those that support young people on their mental health journey. We really appreciate the hope and inspiration you've shared with us today. As Grace said, 2020 has presented so many challenges for so many young people. It's good to focus on the positives and to reach out with advice and support so we can all get through the tough times together. I wish you all the best to the young people who participated in this discussion and to everyone who is watching. Take care and talk to someone you trust if you are struggling, or contact any one of the services listed at the end of today's event. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your encouraging words, Daniel. Thank you to everyone for watching today's video. Stay safe and keep well.